Well, the head of Finland's mission to NATO says Russia has changed the game regarding the future of Europe's security. Ambassador Klaus Korhonen joins us from Brussels. Good to have you with us, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be here.
So Finland has long held neutral status when it comes to European conflict. You are not militarily aligned, but now your country is set to join NATO. It's a major shift in European security. And your leaders say Putin brought this on himself.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, Finland has been a member of the European Union since 1995. For years, we have been a very close partner to NATO. So in that sense, this step will not be such a major one, and maybe the change is not as big as people might think. But of course, it is a result of the very drastic change in our security environment after Russian aggression against Ukraine.
As noted by your Prime Minister and President, Finland wants membership without delay. Have you been given any indication of a time frame? How long could this process take? And how vulnerable is Finland while this happens?
Yes, you had actually two important questions there. Regarding the timeline, of course, it's really up to now the political decisions in Helsinki. I think you just interviewed also members of the Finnish Parliament. And if they want to have a full debate on this question, of course, that will take a little bit of time. So it's very difficult to predict.
Yes, and in terms of vulnerability?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important to stick to the facts. Right now, we don't see any direct military threat against Finland. We don't see any other irregular activity by Russia. Of course, we heard today a little bit acid statements, so the rhetoric, might be a little bit sharper. But at this point, we don't see anything. Finland has a very strong national defense. The level of resilience of our society is a very high level. So I think we are pretty well prepared.
And what exactly are you prepared for? I mean, should the Kremlin respond, what's your expectation of how Russia might react in the coming weeks?
Well, of course, there has been a lot of media speculation. I think there is a rather broad consensus that military response is very, very unlikely. Of course, some sort of cyber harassment, if I may call it that way, other kind of hybrid activities, disinformation campaign, that would be nothing new. This is of course possible, but as said, this is pure speculation. Right now, we don't see any irregular activity.
Finland, of course, shares a very long land border with Russia, over 1,300 kilometres. Once accepted into NATO, will we see NATO troops along that border? What is NATO willing to offer?
Well, I think that's a discussion that is in front of us, both nationally and, of course, with our, I hope, future allies with NATO. Right now, as I said, Finland has a very strong national defense. You could argue that Finland is already protecting the northern flank of the alliance. And as a member, of course, that protection would be even more effective. We don't have any plans about stationing or receiving new military structures or military personnel to Finland, but I think we should also be very open-minded, openly see what are the ways how NATO membership could increase our security and defense. But I think this debate will take place in the future.
And just how secure is that border right now?
Well, I think it's very secure. We have a strong defense. We have a very capable border guard, and I think right now, how should I say, we are awake. So I think the border is very secure.
Support for NATO membership has increased and continues to increase amongst the population in Finland. For those against
That's
NATO
right.
membership, what are their main concerns and what would you say to them to allay their fears?
Well, of course, the starting point is that right now, I think in a democracy, the support for NATO membership is as unanimous as it can be. The support right now is over 70%, and the declared opposition is not more than 10. So I think there is a almost unanimous support for this. But of course, in a democracy, it's natural that we have different opinions also regarding these questions about our possible NATO membership. I think the reasons for opposition are diverse as far as I have followed the Finnish debate. Some opposition is perhaps a little bit based on misunderstandings that Finland will somehow lose part of its sovereignty. This, of course, is not true. NATO is an organization which very strictly respects the sovereignty of its member states. We will take our own decisions also in the future. But of course, there are also people who have a very principled objections against any military preparedness and military activities in a way, how should I say, very principled pacifist attitude. And that's, of course, might be one reason.
Has Putin's decision to order his country's nuclear forces to move to a heightened alert status raised the risk of nuclear weapons in a confrontation and NATO allies backing a nuclear-powered despot into a corner?
Well, I think experts might debate whether the recent statements by the Russian leadership actually mean truly a heightened alertness. But of course, nuclear rhetoric is always part of Russian security policy narrative, and at this time. But personally, I think we are very far away from any nuclear situation, if you want to put it that way. And of course, use of nuclear weapons or threat of use of nuclear weapons, I mean, that would open an entirely new chapter in the Euro-Atlantic landscape.
Ambassador Klaus Korhonen, good to have you with us. We really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Delighted to be here. Thank you.